You got to admit, though, if we were to watch this at When We Were Young and you hit that line where Prada is what she wears from everything I asked for, like, that'd be fun. That'll be a fun line.
Yeah, I guess.
Hold on the mic is everybody like, Prada is what she... I could get down with that. When We Were Young, 2024, all album plays. They're telling us we're going to hear an album from front to back. That's what we're understanding from this.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And the Emo Social Club is going to review all 57 records that are being played at the festival. Since we did our last recording, one was added. So
yeah, so we'll have to just throw it in.
Tossing in a 57th, and hopefully that's it, because we have only so many weeks. This episode is the Maine's Can't Stop, Won't Stop, a band that has been around for quite a bit, and this was their original record. But Lizzie, before we get into our reviews of the record, why don't you tell us a little bit more about that background of the Maine's Can't Stop, Won't Stop?
For sure. So this was released on July 8, 2008 through Fearless Records. And it debuted at number 40 on the Billboard 200. And it also was number 14 on the Billboard Top Rock Albums chart as well. So also pretty high up there. Friend of our podcast, Matt Squire, actually produced this one.
Yep.
There were a few singles on here, but they kind of came out like pretty sporadically. So one of the bigger ones, Everything I Asked For, premiered on MySpace. And then peaked on number 19 on the Billboard Bubbling Under Hot 100. I don't understand why there's so many different classifications for the Billboard charts. I understand that there's a lot of different deviations, but I feel like at a certain point you're just making it so you can make like the smaller artists feel better.
I mean, yeah, it's like why not have another category, I guess.
And then it also premiered on MTV that November as well. So a little bit delayed to like the mainstream, but it still came on MTV during that time. The other singles were Girls Do What They Can, Into Your Arms, and I Must Be Dreaming. There was also a deluxe edition that was released, and it included a cover of Def Leppard's Pour Some Sugar on Me.
Which was from Punko's Classic Rock.
That's what I was thinking it was.
They already put that out.
Yeah.
They've been playing it live.
I feel like there was an epidemic during this time because when we did a Treyus, they also had that Classic Rock cover.
See, that wasn't on the Classic Rock,
That
though.
doesn't make sense.
They just did that for themselves.
It's just so, no, and for Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Apparently, yes, and for Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Yeah,
I wanted to know why they thought that they could do that. And I would beg actually most acts to not cover classic rock.
I'll let them do it. I actually like the Maine's cover of that. Let's go ahead and we'll talk about what we thought about this record. But before we do, we are going through all the records for When We Were Young 2024. So if you don't want to miss one when we drop it, if we haven't talked about your favorite yet, maybe we already did talk about your favorite, go ahead, subscribe down at the bottom below. Leave us a comment, leave us a concern, leave us a thought. Drop a like if you can, it's just a quick little thumb up for us to let us know that you're liking what we're putting out there. And make sure to follow along with us as we're going through all of these records because we're putting in the work you should do.
And don't worry, if you have a concern, Brian will address it directly.
I will address your concerns. Please address all your concerns to me. I got you. Well, let me tell you what I thought about this record. Now, this record came out when I was like going to Warped Tour and all that. So this was like kind of right after a lot of the bands that I was really into. AFI, The Used, My Chem, all these bands had put out a bunch of stuff. And so I was already going to Warped Tour. And there was a kind of a classification of bands around this time that I would call Glamour Kills Core.
Yes.
Because it was like clearly they're all wearing Glamour Kills and they're all very associated with this specific sound and the specific look. I will say, as soon as the Maine came out, I'm like, okay, it's a bunch of pretty boys in a band. And I'm like, they're good looking dudes. And I'm like, I get it, like why this band is kind of popping off. But I will say, like, beyond Everything I Asked For, I never really listened to a lot of it. It took me a little while until I actually listened to the rest of the singles. I had never heard this record before really listening to it for this right now. So all the singles I was a fan of, but I didn't know any of the other ones going into it. And after listening to it, I got to say, this record is not that bad. I kind of liked it.
Okay.
I wouldn't say it's like these are songs that I would listen to again. I would definitely be fine putting on the singles. Like I think those are the strongest ones on the record. But there were some on there that just like it had a good feeling and a good vibe to it. This to me is a record that you would absolutely throw on if you were like driving with the windows down in the summer, and it would just like have that like really good feeling in the background. And it wouldn't matter if you knew the songs or not. Like you would still enjoy
it fits that vibe.
Yeah, you would enjoy the feeling of listening to it. And that's what I got through this. I did feel like it wasn't so emo or so pop punk. It was kind of like in this nice little medium ground there of alternative rock. And like you said, it's on the top 40 of rock. And I'm like, yeah, it does. It's more of an alternative record to me than it is an emo record or a pop punk record. Which I mean, after listening to all the records we do, I'm like, yeah, I don't mind that. I don't mind listening to something that gives me a little bit of a different vibe there. There were a lot of songs that I liked on it generally. I wouldn't say that a lot of the ones that were not the singles are like, yeah, my favorite. I'm going to go and listen to this all the time. Girls Do What They Want, I Must Be Dreaming, I think are great singles from it, great tracks that I've heard before. And I was like, yeah, I still like these. I found myself bobbing my head singing along to them again. The only one that wasn't a single that I was like, oh, I kind of dig this one too was You Left Me. I liked that one.
Okay, we have 2 out of 3 then.
Yeah, okay. Because like, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, it's that neon pop punk.
That's exactly my fucking notes on that.
And I'm like, oh, I didn't know the Maine did a neon pop punk song. But I'm like,
I heard it. I was like, ooh, like this.
Yeah.
This fucks.
It fits. And it like fits in with everything else. And it like is just a really cool like sound. So yeah, I like the neon pop punk vibe. I think that song was really cool and fun. And for the Maine, I was like, I wasn't expecting it and I liked it a lot. I didn't really have any least favorite tracks on this. It was very hard for me to go, oh, I don't like this song, because all of it, it sort of flowed to me. It felt fine. I didn't feel like I needed to say, this one is like a bad song. I didn't have a bad song on the record. I don't think a lot of the non-singles are going to stick with me. I don't think that I would mind hearing them again. I just am like, yeah, that's fine. And this record is like just past like my prime of like the records I was getting into. And I think that's why like I don't have as strong nostalgia goggles for this one. Cause I'm like, yeah, I heard these songs, but I didn't hear these other ones. So I don't really mind it or care.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I like the record. I probably won't revisit it necessarily unless I'm like really in the mood for it.
I will say the Maine is another band that I have accidentally seen so many times and I never really listened to them. I have a lot of friends again too, similar to Mayday Parade, where they really, really love this band. And I've seen them so many times, but I will say it's not a performance that's ever stood out to me as being like, yeah, I want to go see this band again. Or yes, I see them like improving and getting better, or they're doing like these fun different things. It doesn't ever stick out to me in my brain because I'm pretty sure I've seen them like no cap, like minimum accidentally like 8 times.
Yeah.
Just opening for other bands or being like a headliner on like said Summerfest.
Yes, true.
And it was just like, okay, like they're there. People are having a good time. I can't fault them for that. But
this band has a lot of very strong fans.
Yeah, they do.
But most of them I feel like came in a lot later than this record.
I feel like because I also am aware of some of their other records that people do talk about more than this one.
Yes.
Because that's what I've seen more. Obviously, they're also more recent releases than this one. But that's where I see more people like talking about those albums. Now, I haven't listened to them, so I don't know how their song has changed and developed. But I will say, recently, they have done a collaboration with Mr. Wives, which is more of like an alt poppy band. And they did it for the song We Leave in 5. I think they should have pivoted really earlier on, or at least midway through their career, to more of that alt pop. That's like the alt rock radio type of stuff. And I think they would have hit like a really good mainstream success rate earlier on. I feel like the album we're talking about now, first of all, it was, for me, it was a little clunky. It was like they were trying to find their footing on how they wanted to sound. So nothing was really cohesive. And like there's albums that are cohesive that sound different, but it still makes sense with either lyrics or just like vibes. This one, I kept feeling I was a little bit all over the place with it. Like one of my other tops was We All Roll Along. I did like that one.
I like that one too.
I Must Be Dreaming. I loved it. And then I went back and I'm like, why do I like this? So I'm like, this is a starting line song.
100%.
This is a starting line song. And then you have You Left Me, which is like neon pop punk.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is going on here? Like you're trying to figure out where you're going. And I get it. You're a new band pretty much at that point.
I mean, it is like what we say with like the label saying, get me one of those, right?
Yeah.
And this is post like the starting line really popping off. This is post Metro Station popping off. So it's like, it could have just been like, we want a band that can fill all these roles. And that might've been why it's disjointed, being pre-streaming and like the singles or like everything. So it's like you're creating a cohesive record where you're really only going to hear like 3 or 4 singles from it.
Right.
But you're creating songs for all different types of audiences. So it's like, well, they're never going to, unless you get to track 11 11 on the record. You're not going to hear that one. And if they never buy the record, you're never going to know. So I get what you're saying though. Like it definitely feels like there are some better through lines on future records. I've listened to a few of the future records that they put out and that. And the sound definitely feels more the Maine than what they were trying to do at this time. They finally
got a grasp of what they were going for.
Exactly, yeah.
I feel like even with like the ones I didn't care too much for, again, it wasn't like I hated them. I was just like, this just kind of seems like a little bit too out of the element for what it was. So one of them was Everything I Asked For, which I know is one of the singles, but I think what made me kind of give pause, especially for earlier 2000s songs in this genre as well, is that I know, you don't want everything to be too rhymey, like poetry. There's, a pentameter and everything like that. You can go into it.
Hitting with the pentameter.
But I feel like for that type of like era, people wanted that really easy to remember, like lyricism. And this kind of switches up too much where you're like, oh, this song's going to rhyme with this next. And even if you didn't know it, you can try to pick up on it if you were like singing it live. This one is like, nope, we're going to go like do a hard pivot to the left. Yeah. It's going to do this. And it kind of threw me off. Now, I mean, I listen to stuff that doesn't rhyme all the time, but thinking about the time it came out, I feel like if I was trying to get into it, I'd be like, this isn't very pop punk of you.
Yeah. It's supposed to be poppy and it kind of like, don't twist on me. But like obviously later, if they create stuff that is a little bit more challenging, it's like
different then.
Clear,
because they clearly found, as you kind of mentioned, they found like their area.
Sound. Yeah.
In Your Arms was not one that I liked only because it reminded me it's just closing time.
Sure.
That's how I felt. Because I'm like, what song is this? And I'm like, it's closing time. And like, it wasn't here or there, but I was like, this is just closing time to me. It doesn't do anything to me.
I'll give you that.
And then Whoever She Is, because I don't like slow songs usually. So, and it was a slower song. It just made me sleepy.
Yeah, I dug that one fine, but I get where you're
and it
was
from. Just there. It wasn't something that I stopped them and like, I don't like this and skip it like a tray.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I literally was like, we
can leave a tray. A tray used dough. We can leave it out. Stop shitting on that record that I like.
Listen.
I'll shit on the records you don't like.
You do.
I know. And I will continue to do it. You got to admit though, if we were to watch this when we were young and you hit that line where Prada is what she wears from Everything I Asked For, like that'd be fun. That'll be a fun line.
Yeah.
Like
guess.
hold out the mic and everybody like Prada is what she. I could get down with that. I like a good call and response line in a song.
I get that.
Even if the song isn't like that vibey, I'm like, the call and response will be good though.
Yeah, because people are going to get into it. That'll get people like riled up.
Oh yeah.
But I think that's just like my overall thought on it. Like, again, I've seen them so many times. I understand the fanfare. I really feel like they could have been bigger. I feel like I like their newer stuff that they're putting out, even though like a traditional old head would say like they're selling out. I think that they should have done this earlier.
Yeah.
I think if they went more that neon pop punk route, probably like the natural causation that would come afterwards would for them to be like an alt rock radio band. And I think they should have like did that with that one song we both like and just like went with that.
Yeah. That was our thoughts on the record, but we are not the only people who will be it when we were young. There will be other people there who listened to this record when it came out, who have purchased this record. And so I went to Amazon.com/the Maine's Can't Stop Won't Stop reviews, which is a real website. So I'm going to read a couple reviews from Amazon. There were not a ton of reviews in general, but all the ones that were there were positive.
Okay.
So these are a couple positive reviews. This one is written by Roger and Cindy Wilbur.
Oh, we got a duo.
Which I just believe is like a shared account on Amazon.
As married couples do.
The review was from May 18th, 2013. Now, I just think this is cute. CD purchased for our 17-year-old granddaughter of her favorite music group. She loved the songs on this album. One of her favorites.
That's cute. That's wholesome.
I'm like, yep, there you go. That's perfect.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah, so if you're a grandparent, this will work for an album for your child. This is another one written by a reviewer named Techie. Review is titled Annoyingly Catchy, but So Much Fun. This was written on January 7th, 2010. So this is a little bit closer to when the album actually came out. To put it short, I love this album. It blew me away. I was expecting another typical pop rock alternative album with a few catchy songs and a lot of filler. I couldn't have been more wrong. Yes, it's not totally flawless since there are a few songs I don't really enjoy. But so far, the perfect albums are Def Leppard's Pyromania and Hysteria, which are legends for a reason. Even with a couple duds, this is by far the most enjoyable, fun album I own. Girls Do What They Want. Meh. I didn't find it worthy of going on my iPod. Not exactly bad, just not my thing. The chorus is repeated way too many times. 3.
I pulled a couple. So a lot of them that I found that were like more critically reviewed by people who are music writers, music journalists, this kind of came like right in the middle, like not super great, but not super bad. Pretty decent was the general consensus, except for this one from readjunk.com by B.RedJunk, who gave it 2 stars out of 5. This Arizona pop rock band has only been around since 2007. Their first show was for a MySpace promotion and they played in front of 600 people. I guess that's a decent first show to play, huh?
Yes, that is.
I like this person is probably just salty as shit.
Of course.
Yeah, like this already sounds like it's dripping in
There
bias.
is no one who can get 600 people to show up to their first show.
Oh, absolutely
period.
not. No. These guys sound like something you'd hear in some teen flick. Okay, like that was of the time. That's what you would want.
Also, that sounds like somebody who wasn't a teen at the time. 'Cause if
Yeah,
you're a
like
teen at the
somebody who was
time-
maybe like early 20s and thought they were an adult.
Yeah.
They have polished, catchy tunes and ultimately sound very generic. If you have a 13-year-old sister, she might like this. So
I'm saying.
TLDR, too generic and radio friendly.
Back in the day, it was like you would only see them on Warped Tour, and that would be where you found the music. Now you can be on the radio and sell out. So
Yeah.
not a negative review as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I think it's great because as we
Guy.
said again, this was for a younger, typically female audience.
Yep. So, pretty quick little episode here, but we can't end it before we answer the question: should you see this album in full at When We Were Young? For me, I would be open to seeing the beginning of this record, seeing the singles, singing along with everything I ask for. I think it would be fun. But if this band is on at the same time as another band I really like, I'm probably going to see the other band. I enjoyed this record, but I don't think that I would like this as my favorite, the main record. And so I don't feel like it's a necessary record to see in full live versus maybe some of the future ones where there's songs that I'm like, oh, I really like this song better. So I think generally I might skip this at the fest unless there was like, oh, there's another record being played that I really don't like.
Yeah, same. I mean, I've seen them so many times and they're there, and I feel like it's a band that I could say like I enjoy enough of their songs that I could probably hear and be like, oh yeah, I remember this somewhere in like the deep thoughts of my mind and subconscious that I've seen live so many times. But it would definitely be like, oh, I'm sitting down in a field eating some tacos probably.
Yeah.
And I just want to hear music that I know enough of that I'm gonna like enjoy it and not be listening to another band that I'm gonna be like, oh God, please let it end.
I think we're fine with this record, but I don't think we need to see it at the festival.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're a Maine stan, a Maine person, a Maine
Mainstream girl.
a Mainer, a Maine streamer,
Jesus Christ, I hate us.
a Mainlander,
Oh my God.
one of the Maine men. Obviously, I think that there will be people who want to see this record quite a bit, but I don't know if we'll be there, so maybe not. But yeah, that was our thoughts. That was our opinions. Were we right? Were we wrong? Are we supposed to be part of the mainstream, or were we just a little bit counterculture? I don't know.
Are you guys about to fight us in the comment
Yeah,
section?
seriously.
Again, CC Brian, he's the
Fight
one
us in the comments if
who
you're
is
if we're
moderating
wrong. Yeah.
those.
It's fine. Obviously, I don't think we don't hate the Maine, but we
No.
probably won't see it. So let us know if we're wrong. Let us know if you want to fight us. And obviously, we'll see you at When We Were Young if you're there. But yeah, until then, the Maine can't stop, won't stop. When We Were Young 2024. We'll see you there.